Hello, my name is Barry Olsen, and I am a conference interpreter and professor of translation and interpreting at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. Many of you have seen a video that I recorded previously for A Word in Your Ear, called Technology and Interpreting: 3 questions on every interpreter's mind. In that video, I addressed some of technology's broad effects on interpreting. In this video, I'd like to address another technology topic that is on many interpreters' minds: remote interpreting. Remote interpreting is a vast topic and one that cannot be done justice in all its depth and breadth in this short video. But my hope is that after watching, you'll have a broader vision and better understanding of what remote interpreting is and how it is changing and expanding the way we work and how clients access our services. Let me begin with a brief comparison. In many ways, remote interpreting is like the proverbial elephant being described by several blind men who are touching it in different places. Unable to see the entire animal, they must rely on their sense of touch. One says it's long and round and bends like a snake. Another says, no, it's hard and smooth and has a point on the end, because he was touching one of the tusks. But another one says, no, it's big and rough like a wall, as he feels the elephant's side. And yet another person, touching one of the animal's strong back legs, says, no, you're all wrong. It's thick and round like the trunk of a tree. And so they all argue and are convinced that they are right and that the others surely don't know what they're talking about. The irony is that they were all right, at least to a degree. However, relying exclusively on their own experience, they were unable to piece together the bigger picture. They were incapable of gaining a broader vision of what an elephant actually looks like. I see something similar happening with remote interpreting. Let me explain. Interpreting has many different modes, settings, and specialties. Interpreters work at the United Nations, the European institutions, and in diplomatic circles. We work in courtrooms, boardrooms, classrooms, police precincts, and prisons. We work in hospitals, clinics, conflict zones, and in refugee camps. Practically any place where people come in contact and don't speak the same language. The need for interpreting services has expanded dramatically with the growth of international commerce, travel, migration, and interaction among peoples and cultures. Now, remote interpreting, like face-to-face interpreting, is varied and has many different implementations. The technologies used for remote interpreting are, and even I would say they're more varied than the modes of face-to-face interpreting. We must understand this fact in order to get the bigger picture. For example, in a presentation given at the 2015 AIT Congress in Addis Ababa, Andrew Constable defined 9 different modes of what he defined as distance interpreting. 9 different modes. As a profession, we still haven't even exactly decided what to call these different forms of interpreting. For this video, I've opted to call them all remote interpreting. Remote interpreting can be viewed as doing 2 things to our profession: replacing existing interpreting models, a zero-sum game, if you will, but it's also expanding access to interpreting in new ways and creating more opportunities for interpreters. First, let's talk about replacement. Remote interpreting is replacing and will continue to replace some face-to-face interpreting in medical, court, and conference settings, and we shouldn't think it won't. As this happens, it is paramount that we clearly understand and be good at describing the value of face-to-face interpreting and identifying the interactions where its use is crucial. Medical, for example, trauma, end of life, special needs scenarios. Legal, multi-day trials, evidentiary hearings. Conference and diplomatic, sensitive negotiations, protocol events, to name just a few. The pressure to reduce cost while increasing access to interpreting will continue. We must be articulate as we explain why and in which scenarios face-to-face interpreting should be the first choice, and in some cases, the only choice. But we must also embrace new delivery methods and recognize that reducing the overhead associated with providing interpreting and improving access will require adaptation on our part. Digging in our heels and refusing to change, it's simply a bad idea. Now, let me talk briefly about how remote interpreting is expanding access to services and creating new opportunities for interpreters. Remote interpreting is ideal for new forms of communication like video conferences, audio conferences, webinars, earnings calls, virtual press conferences, and expert network interviews, just to name a few. Let me share some actual examples of remote interpreting in action. A UN agency conducts executive committee meetings via conference call with remote simultaneous interpretation in English and French with participants on 3 different continents. A tropical fruit producers association holds bi-weekly meetings online in English and Spanish to discuss mango production and export activities. A South American NGO conducts webinars where a group of panelists from different countries presents the results of their research to a global audience. The webinars are held with simultaneous interpretation that comes in remotely, which allows people to engage and to interact in their own languages. Here's another example. An investment manager conducts an interview over the phone with an expert in the mining industry in China, with remote interpreting, whether consecutive or simultaneous, between English and Mandarin Chinese. One more. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies convenes an emergency teleconference with simultaneous interpretation in multiple languages to help societies around the globe coordinate efforts to address the spread of the Zika virus. In these examples, none of the participants actually meet face-to-face. All were remote, just like the interpreters. In fact, none of these meetings were ever planned to take place face-to-face. As these examples show, new communications technologies have made interpreting available where it wasn't in the past. However, the growth in remote interpreting is not without its challenges. We must engage with our clients to set appropriate working conditions, particularly for interpreters who work remotely all day. This includes addressing concerns like the number of interactions interpreted per day, the number and frequency of breaks, fatigue, isolation, stress, fair remuneration for services, and ensuring audio and video quality. But it's important to remember that interpreters are not the only professionals that must adapt to new communication technologies. Think of telemedicine, where doctor and patient aren't even in the same room anymore. Think of the thousands of webinars that take place every day, or the meetings that take place by audio and video conference every day. Remote interpreting truly is a boon to multilingual communication. It makes our services more available than ever before and in new ways. As the market for our services expands, it diversifies. Evidence of this can be seen in how interactions requiring interpreting have become much more varied in form and duration. As practitioners who are experts in our own modes and specialties of interpreting, whether it's conference, court, or medical, we are keenly aware of what we stand to lose if the way we work changes. What we often do not see is what we and society as a whole stand to gain if we evolve to offer our services in new ways. The discussion of remote interpreting has tended to revolve around what we stand to lose, not what we stand to gain. And I personally find that unfortunate. Face-to-face interpreting at conferences, in courtrooms, and health clinics will not disappear because of remote interpreting. It will evolve. There is great value in the long-standing face-to-face modes of interpreting, just as there is great value in meeting people face-to-face to build and maintain relationships of trust and work together. This will not change. So to sum up, Remote interpreting is here. It poses both challenges and opportunities. If we focus exclusively on what remote interpreting will replace in our profession, or what we stand to lose, it will seem threatening and scary. If we ask ourselves how it can fit into our professional practice together with the other modes of interpreting, we stand to gain, and we will be able to help shape the future of international communication. And that's a good place to be. Thanks for watching.